here for the review. Make sure you sign in, right? I'm gonna go over those problems that I told you about. I'll probably mention some of the other ones that I mentioned in class. You do have all the classes. 5th period finished in exactly 30 minutes. So that was pretty cool. I played with them. It was nice. We made it. Everybody got 10 minutes through the Give Kit of note time. So you can be able to use those notes for 10 minutes. So take some good ones, because this is the test just with a few change numbers. Are you started already?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Did everybody sign in? Yeah. All right.
Do you want me to leave your door open?
You can go ahead and close it.
Are you coming?
All right, so starting at the top, now on the test, you're gonna be asked, and I know number one's not on my list, but you're gonna be asked either what is a positive number, right? Or what is neither positive nor negative, right? So if it's neither positive nor negative, 0 will be your answer. Neither positive nor negative, right? 0 does not have a sign. It's neither positive or negative. Now it asks for a positive number. I'm looking for either E or pi, right? Either E or pi. If I do ask a negative number, I won't be on here. Obviously, I is the square root of -1, but it'll just be that negative number. I normally don't ask for a negative number. I either ask what is neither positive nor negative, or what is positive, and you have to know that, yeah, E or my pi, which is 3.14, E 2.18, whatever it is, right? Both of those are positive numbers. So, plotting absolute value, right? I'm actually gonna do, start with number 3. I will do a line absolute value one as well. But I wanted to go through it and do this one. Remember, after I get my 2 solutions, I have to take the absolute value of them, subtract the difference, right, of them subtracted by each other. So I'll start up here. I have -19 equals 7 minus 13 times absolute value of 2x minus 1. So the first thing I want to do, I want to solve it to the walls, or isolate my absolute value. So I subtract 7 from both sides. So I get a -26 equals -13 times 2x minus 1. So again, keep isolating this absolute value. So I divide by a -13 on both sides, right? -26 over -13 gives me a +2, equaling my absolute value of 2x minus 1. Now I have solved to the walls, so I'm going to split this in 2, and I'm going to start with blue, right? So now I'm just going to rewrite this equation the other way. It's going to make it a little easier. So I'm going to write 2x minus 1 equals a +2, and 2x minus 1 equals a -2. All right, I've solved to the walls. Now I'm splitting in 2. Work this side first, add 1 to each side. I get 3 equals my 2x. I divide by 2 on each side. I get x equals 3/2. On this side, I add 1, right? I get a -1 over here. So I get 2x. So I divide by 2, all right? So I get x equals a -1/2. So again, my answer choice, I need the value of a minus b in absolute value. So I'm gonna have 3/2 minus -1/2 absolute value. So here's where everybody messes up, right? You gotta keep their sign straight. 3/2 minus a negative, right? So that's why I like to plug in with those parentheses, especially if it's negative. I like to draw my little plus sign right there. So this becomes 3/2 plus 1/2, which is 4/2, which is 2. The absolute value of 2 is dos. So again, the tricky part is plugging it in, right? Making sure we have our correct signs. We get 3/2 plus or minus a negative 1/2. That turns into a plus where you subtract the negative. All right, number 4 is the next one on my list to do. Is everybody good with the work on number 3? Very good. So 4, same thing, except now it asks for the sum of our answers, right? It says, what is the sum of the solution? So again, I know it's absolute value. I'm gonna get 2 solutions here. So I get 3x minus 5 plus 4 equals 7. You gotta isolate your absolute value. So minus 4 from each side. So I get 3 equals 3 times the absolute value of x minus 5. Keep isolating, divide by 3. So your absolute value of x minus 5 is going to equal 1. Now, I'm gonna go blue when I split in 2. Split this in 2, I can write it x minus 5 equals a positive 1, and x minus 5 equals a negative 1. Solve for x plus 5 on both sides. So I get x equals 6 over here, plus 5, negative 1, plus 5 is gonna equal 4. So my 2 answers, my 2 solutions are 6 and 4. Sum means I add them together, so I get 10. Any questions on that one? All right. So pretty basic absolute value, right? We just have to do a little finagling with the answer to get it how they want it there. So I am going to do this one as well. I believe this is number 5. What is the solution to the inequality? 4 minus 3 times x plus 2 is less than negative 5. So there's 3 number line ones on here. I believe I'll do 2 of them on this review. So again, right, I want to start by isolating my absolute value. So I'm going to subtract this 4 over, right? So I get negative 3 times the absolute value of x plus 2 is less than a negative 9. Then I divide by a negative 3. When I divide by a negative, when I divide or multiply by a negative on a absolute value or on any inequality, I have to flip the sign. So make sure you get this sign flipped. All right, so this becomes the absolute value of x plus 2, right? And this becomes a positive 3. So now it becomes x, absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than a positive 3. Now I'm gonna go blue when I split in 2. All right, so now I split that equation into 2, right? This side is just gonna be x plus 2 is greater than 3. Over here, I'm gonna have x plus 2 is less than negative 3, because I'm gonna wanna multiply this side by a negative 1. Solving those 2 out, so I'm minus 2, I get x is greater than 1. Over here, I'm minus 2, I get x is less than a negative 5. So because I do not have the equal sign, right, I want to do my open circles. So here I'm going to draw an open circle at 1. I know x is greater than, so those are the numbers to the right. So I'm going to push my line that way. I believe you just click it on the test. Then I have mine at negative 5, right? So again, open circle, right? Click it this way, and you're done. That is your number line solution there. So again, just like we solved normal inequalities, right? Now we're just gotta plot that on the number line. That was number 5. Any questions on number 5? All right. So remember, before number 10, the one I didn't do, it was equal to, so those are the close points. All right, let's go to number 7. All right, number 7. So now, again, it's another absolute value inequality, but I'm answering in interval notation now. So again, just solve it, just as you would any absolute value inequality. Isolate that inequality, or I say solve to the walls, right? So the first step, I want to add my 5 over. I get my 12 is less than, right, 4 times my absolute value of x plus 5. Again, keep isolating. We got to solve it all the way to the walls. So I divide each side by 4. So I get 3 is less than the absolute value of x plus 5. Now it's solved to the walls. So I'm going to go blue and I'm going to split it in 2. All right, we get, now I love to keep the absolute value on my left-hand side, right? We can rearrange this. It's a little harder with inequalities because you got to make sure your sign is facing the same way, right? So if you remembered your crocodile, which side is that eating? So here, if I want to put my absolute value on my left side, because that's what I'm used to, make sure your inequality is facing that way, right? It's pointing to the 3, your Pac-Man or your crocodile is eating your absolute value, right? I don't need my walls here. So I get x plus 5 is greater than 3, and then my second equation, x plus 5, and now I have to flip the sign, right? So I want it facing the other way, and I multiplied that 3 by a -1. So I solve it out, -5, -5, I get x is greater than a -2, -5 on each side, I get x is less than a -8. So again, if I were to look at this on a number line, I'll do that in pink. All right. I'll have my -2, -8. All right, I'll have an open circle, right? X is gonna be greater than -2, so I head to the right. All right, let's do the lines in blue. All right, so I head to the right here at 8. I see x is less than -8, so I'm headed right to my larger numbers or to -infinity. So how would I write this interval over here? All right, well, I start over here at -infinity. Remember, I always use parentheses with infinity, and when I get to the -8, right, well, that's when my open or closed circle comes in. Since it was just less than, it wasn't equal to, it's an open circle, so I have my parentheses. If it was underlined, and that's one way I do change it, right? If it's underlined, make sure you have the bracket there. On this side, same thing, open circle, -2, going all the way out to infinity. Infinity, I always use my parentheses. 2 answer choices, -2 to infinity, -infinity to -8. So remember, this does get changed, right? 2 of the ways I change it, I'll change the numbers and I'll change the brackets, whether it's an equal to. If it's an equal to, make sure you close those points in. If on any time, and I will put this on your test, right, you see a bracket with infinity, you know you can get rid of that answer. You can never include infinity. You cannot catch infinity, right? That was number 7? Yep. Alright. So moving on, number 9. Again, we should have wrote number 8 in our notes, right? X minus our average equals our variation. There's 2 of those right in the equations. Make sure you have those. Alright. Alright, number 9. So number 9 is our extraneous one, right? It asks about extraneous solutions. So we have to plug in here to see if those numbers are going to work. So this one is already solved to the walls. So I can split in 2 right away. So my equations are going to be 2x plus 12 equals my 4x, and 2x plus 12 equals my negative 4x. So again, you just solve it like any equation. Oops. Get all your x's together. I'm gonna put them over here. If you like to keep your x's positive, that'll work as well. Sometimes I just like to keep all my x's on my left, so I'm gonna put them over here. Minus our 4x, both sides. I get a negative 2x plus 12 equals 0, minus your 12. Again, you can keep your x's positive. I'm gonna have my x's on my left. Negative 2x equals negative 12, divide by your negative 2, right? I get x equals a positive 6. This side, all right, I can add my positive 4x, all right? So I get 6x plus 12 equals 0, all right? Subtract your 12, negative 12 equals your 6x. Divide by your 6's, you get x equals negative 2. So at this point, you're not done. Oh, dang it. So again, what are my answers there? I had x equals negative 2 and x equals a positive 6. All right. Once you get your solutions, they have to go into the original equation. So if you're going to make a mistake, it's subbing into your work right there. These have got to go into the very original equation. So the first one I'll check, I'll do the negative 2. So you're going to sub in. It's a negative. Make sure you use those parentheses. All right, so I get 2 times negative 2, absolute value plus 12. Equals your 4x, right? Which my x is a negative 2. Absolute value functions as parentheses. Go inside. What's next? Multiplication. Negative 2 times 2 is a negative 4 plus 12. Absolute value equals 4 times negative 2 is a negative 8, right? Negative 4 plus 12 is a positive 8. Absolute value of a positive 8, is that going to equal a negative 8? No. Right? So what happens here? Well, negative 2 is an extraneous solution. Now, I did all that work and I solved it, but if I looked at the answer choices, I would notice 6, 6, negative 2, and negative 2. So if you wanted to, right, you could have just gone in and you could have checked these solutions if all of them were the same, right? So even though I prefer you to solve it all the way out and find the solutions for yourself, if you know that there can only be those solutions and the other answer was no solutions, right, you could start by checking them. So next one I have is 6. So let's plug it in. Let's see if it works. So 2 times 6 plus 12 equals 4 times 6. All right, again, start inside your parentheses. 2 times 6. So I get 12 plus 12 in my absolute value walls equals my 4 times 6, which is 24. So the absolute value of 24 equals 24. 24 equals 24. It checks. right? So 6 is a valid solution. Negative 2 is our extraneous. When we plug it in, it doesn't work, right? When we do the work, that's one of our solutions, but when we plug it in, it does not work. All right, so y'all have a little cheat code, right? Y'all know, okay, if all of these are the same, which they will be on the test, right? Numbers will change. You can start by plugging them in to see if those are extraneous or not. Make sense? All right. Next number, was this 9? Yes, 12. All right, 12. Fractions are friends. So just the basic absolute value inequality, just gonna have to use fractions on this. You do it the exact same way. So I have 8k minus 9 minus 6 is less than negative 4. So you wanna start isolating your absolute value plus 6, right? So now I get 8k minus 9 in absolute value is less than a positive 2 over here. Now I'm gonna split in 2, and I'm gonna do it in blue, right? So I get my 8k minus 9 is less than positive 2. On this side, make sure to multiply that other side of the equation by our negative 1. 8k minus 9. If I multiply by negative 1 on an inequality, I flip the sign. All right, so 8k minus 9 is negative 2. Add my 9 to both sides over here. I get 8k is less than 11. Divide by 8, all right? I get k is less than 11/8. This side over here, add my 9 to both sides. I get 8k is greater than a positive 7. Divide by 8. I get k is greater than 7/8. All right. You can plug these in to make sure that they're going to work here. They do. We'll try to get through. If I have time, I'll come back to it. We got a few more we'll try to get through today. Any questions on this one? Basic fractions. One of the things I will do, I will make this negative. So what will happen if I put the negative inside the absolute value? Like our warm-up question today. Mom? Did I have you today? Who was in my class today? Or yesterday? It's the same one from yesterday. Alright, if the negative is inside the absolute value, right? When I divide by it, I have to flip the sign again. So your signs are just going to be backwards here. If there's a negative inside the absolute value. All right, your inequality signs. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, 18. That was 12, right? All right, 18. So another inequality. I don't know why I said I'd do this one. This one seems pretty easy, but I wrote it down. So it's already solved to the walls, right? So I can split in 2 from Jump Street. Boom, boom. 3x minus 4 is less than 8. 3x minus 4 is greater than, flip that sign, negative 8. Add 4, so I get 12, so 3x is less than 12. Divide by 3, x is less than 4. Plus 4, so that becomes a negative 4, so 3x is greater than negative 4. Divide by 3, x is greater than negative 4/3. Make sure that's an and there, right? X is less than 4 and greater than negative 4/3. Why is that an and? If I plotted it on my number line, it would come together in a segment, right? I'd have 4 over here with an open circle going this way. I would have negative 4/3 somewhere over here, open circle coming this way, connecting. That's why I have my and. Or I'm going the opposite ways, right? I'm either less than or I'm greater than. If it's a segment, it's an and. So eliminate that, right, if you get the segment. All right, number 22. I went over this one in class. Everybody, the roof one picture, we're good. Another one of these. All right, the factoring problem. All right, basic, like the warm-ups, right? And there is a typo, there should be a negative. All right, 3x squared minus 8x. My first step here, anytime I factor, subtract my 3, right? Get it equal to 0. So I get 3x squared minus 8x minus 3, right? It equals 0. Now I can factor it. So I know once I get it to 0, I can put 3x squared in the top left-hand corner of my box. I can put the negative 3 in the bottom right. To get, ooh, that's not frustrating. All right, so we just do it again. You got 3x squared here, you got negative 3, 3x squared minus 8x minus 3 equals 0. Right, to get what goes on my diagonals, I need to multiply my a times my c. My first coefficient times my third, so that gives me a negative 9. I want the factors of negative 9 that add up to a negative 8. I know since this last number is negative, I'm gonna need a negative and a positive over here on my box, right? One of them will have to be negative, one of them will have to be positive. So, I'll start with a negative 1, a positive 9. Oh no, that gives me positive 8. Well, let's switch it. Negative 9 and a positive 1, right? That gives me a negative 8x. So I know my negative 9x can go on this diagonal, and my positive x, a positive 1x, can go right there. So now it's like that reverse Sudoku, trying to figure out, I need to multiply to equal 3 here, right? So I know it's got to be 3 and 1 to get to 9. I probably need my 3 right over there. So what do I need to multiply 3 to get to that 9? Well, that needs to be 3x. So I'm going to have 3x plus 1. Of course, I have to get just x here, right? So my two factors are x minus 3 and 3x plus 1. Check, make sure it works. Adds up to negative 8x. It does. Set these equal to 0 because I want these in that x-intercept form, right? X minus 3 equals 0, plus 3, x equals a positive 3. 3x plus 1 equals 0, minus 1, 3x equals negative 1. Divide by 3, x equals negative 1/3. All right, so again, that's wrong. It needs that negative right there. It may change a little bit. They'll be very similar to your warm-ups. In fact, it might be one from your warm-ups. So if you do have all your warm-ups, and this is the only one you need, you might be able to look through those and see those in your notes. All right.